Okay, this is going to be a video specifically the oil pump system on the 4-liter single overhead cam. I've got all the components here that make up the oil pump and the drive assembly. And I just wanted to go into the details of this. So starting with the oil pump, it is clockwise rotation. I bench tested the old pump that I'd removed from my engine. So the direction of rotation is clockwise for these oil pumps. Here's the part number. Hope you can see that. Next up is the drive shaft. I didn't have a Ford replacement part, so this is Melling. There's the part number there. And it looks like there's been a revision to this intermediate shaft. It's very minor, but I was happy to see the instructions because I wouldn't have known. It's very minute, but there's a small groove that is cut across these splines, and the instructions are saying that that needs to be inserted into the oil pump, that end. And this little, I don't know what you would call this, it's not a retaining ring, but it sort of acts like a stopper. So when the oil pump is bolted to the engine block, which I'll show you in a minute, this intermediate shaft slips down through a passage in the block, and this ring holds it in position so it doesn't tip out and drop on you when you roll the block over. It'll stay in position. And then this cartridge here is the oil pump drive assembly. It looks like a little cartridge with a bearing in there and some passageways for the engine oil to go in and lubricate that bearing. And this helical gear is driven from the intermediate shaft. And the splines here engage this intermediate shaft, and then in the engine block it'll be like so, like that. The part number I'll show you for this oil pump drive assembly. And here's the jack shaft. So this is at the front of the block, and this is at the rear of the block. And there's this thrust washer or spacer that goes on here. So the crankshaft drives this jack shaft, and in turn this helical gear drives the oil pump adapter gear, which is basically I didn't count the number of teeth, to see if they're the same gear count. I was hoping it would be, so I could tell you that I've already calculated the speed at which this oil pump is driven at when the engine is idling, assuming 800 RPM engine idle speed. So this timing set here is the crankshaft gear driving the jack shaft timing gear. So this is 20 teeth, and the jack shaft sprocket is 32 teeth. So if the engine's idling at 800 RPM, and assuming, this is only assuming that this ratio here is 1:1, then the oil pump at engine idle is driven at 500 RPM. And how I got that was our 800 revolutions per minute crankshaft speed multiply by our drive gear, which is 20 teeth, divided by our driven gear, which is 32 teeth, and that equals 500 RPM. What that equates to in oil pressure, I'm not sure yet, but that is going to be one of the tests that I'm going to do, and I am going to make a video on that, separate video. Okay, so that covers how the oil pump is driven in these 4-liter single overhead cam engines. Next is this little clamp and bolt is all that holds this cartridge in the engine block, which I'll show you in a minute here. This slips into a cavity, and then this just comes down on top and secures it into place. And I want to show you the part numbers for this. The clamp, that's the part number for the clamp. And I can't recall what the part number is for this clamp bolt, but either or, you guys could find it, I'm sure. And before I get over to the engine, I'm going to explain something here. I'd ordered all the timing sets I was able to get from Ford. And now I have a concern here because the replacement jack shaft drive sprocket is noticeably different than the one that I removed from the engine. And here's the part number for this new drive sprocket that I bought. Okay. Now there's a significant difference here. It has this stem or sleeve in here, and I don't really know if this is a revision, like a revised design in the later years of this engine. This engine that I'm rebuilding is a 2007. There's seems to be some variations of this engine, this 4-liter single overhead cam. Some engines have the balance shaft. However, when I took my engine apart, there was not a balance shaft in there. Okay, anyway, so the concern being is here we have the front side. The jack shaft will be in the engine. This is the front of the engine. And here, you can see there isn't a defined shoulder there. It's kind of beveled. It's not even chamfered, it's beveled. And so this drive sprocket here slips in like that. And this bolt is torque to yield. It has to be replaced. There's a lot of torque to yield bolts on this engine. But just for reference, let's measure here. From the face of this drive sprocket down to the shoulder of this jack shaft, I've got approximately 1.575. 1.575. Now, with this sprocket, it's going to slip in and it's going to protrude a lot further than this. I think at least 100 thou further out. Let's see if I can get somewhat of a accurate measurement. Slipping off. 1.655 from 1.575. So right around 100 thou or so. So what that tells me is there's going to be some offset misalignment there. And obviously that's going to be a big problem. So I got to go back to Ford and find out about this revision here, and if it was a revision, and see if I possibly could get another one with different part number. But anyway, just showing you the part number there one more time for this drive gear. All right, that covers that. Now for the engine. Let's get moved over here. Let's see how we can do this. I'll lower down a bit. Let's go a little bit more. There we go. Okay. This cavity right here, that's where that oil pump drive assembly slips into. It's just an O-ring in there that seals it. That'll insert like this. And then there's a clamp bolt right here that'll seat in, and then that clamp holds it on top in one single bolt, so that's pretty easy. See if I can give you a better angle inside. See, it's that hole is open all the way through the block because the intermediate shaft will be sliding through there, directly in line with the pump input splines. So I'll get this engine turned over upside down and show you what that looks like. So these two bolts are what fasten the oil pump to the underside of the engine block. And this is the discharge port here. So the oil pump will discharge through here, in through the filter, and then back into the engine block filtered oil. So here we go. Here's the details. Let me just take this off here for a minute. And there's that hole down there that intermediate shaft comes in through. So I believe how this works is you would insert that shaft in through there, and that retaining ring that's in the middle of that will hold that shaft from falling out through, and then you slide the oil pump down over the splines and it'll bolt up here. And right here, this is a pipe plug here and here. These holes are plugged because these are the oil supply galleries for engines that have a balance shaft. And as I said, my engine does not have a balance shaft. When I took it apart, and I'm in Canada, so we don't have, I've never come across a Torx head pipe plug before, so I think this is from the factory. I would put money on it. So yeah, one more detail I wanted to show is so that jack shaft slides in here, and the offset I was talking about is the timing gear ends up sitting out further. So I think it'll be offset from the crankshaft drive gear. So I'm kind of disappointed about that. I'll have to figure out if they just gave me a wrong part number or something or what. But anyway, so my engine here has been bored 20 thou over, or 0.5 millimeter oversize, and I went with Engine Tech Hyper Gear Tactic coated pistons and Engine Tech piston rings. And so I just would like to show you the rolling resistance to bar this over. Looks like a consistent 10 pounds to break it free and get it moving, and then it drops off. Some inaccuracies there, but it's about 8 or 9 pounds of continuous torque to turn it over, to turn all 6 pistons over in the cylinders, and about 10 to break it free. Okay, I hope doing this video has helped anybody who has never had one of these engines apart and is kind of maybe doing some planning or interested in learning more about how the oil system works. But yeah, there it is. Thanks for watching.